Today, let's learn something about Chapter 9 Brain States. Have you ever considered the ups and downs that occur during your day? Speaking literally, you are up and awake during the day and lying down sleeping at night. Speaking figuratively, ups and downs could mean that you experience periods of elevated alertness and arousal compared with your mood when you are tired or relaxed. Asleep, awake, aroused, and relaxed are different brain states, meaning that the brain's activity is different during each of these periods. Scientists have looked deep inside the brain to understand what sleep is and how rest differs from being alert. This research is especially important for people like doctors, pilots, and shift workers who sometimes must focus and make important decisions with very little sleep. Researchers on brain states can also help people who have disorders of sleep, attention, and learning. First, brain activity during sleep. Scientists have measured the brain's electrical activity using EEG, and electrodes attached to the scalp detect and record the, the net electrical activity of hundreds of thousands of cortical nerve cells. When a neuron is active, ions move in and out of the cell, altering the electrical charge across the cell membrane. An EEG detects the net electrical charge produced when neurons increase and decrease their activity as a group in synchrony. The results are brain waves, the cycling, rising, and falling of brain activity that can be important indicators of brain function. In sleep studies, scientists now recognize two main states: slow wave sleep and rapid eye movement sleep, also called REM. And the SWS gets its name from the high amplitude, low frequency brainwaves in EEG recordings. The high amplitude of slow waves indicates that many cortical neurons are switching their activity in a synchronized way from a depolarized state to a hypolarized state and back again. These slow waves appear to be important to sleep function. The longer a person stays awake, the more slow waves they will experience during the SWS states. Slow waves become less frequent the longer the person is asleep. If awakened during SWS, most people recall only fragmented thoughts, not active dreams. And have you ever seen a cat dreaming, twitching its whiskers or paws while it sleeps? Dreaming happens mainly during REM sleep, which takes its name from the periodical rapid eye movements people make in these states. Brain activity recorded during REM looks very similar to EEGs recorded while awake. EEG waves during REM sleep have much lower amplitudes than the SWS slow waves. Because neural activity is less synchronized and some nerve cells depolarized while others hypolarized. Others hyperpolarized, and the sum of their electrical states is less positive than if they acted in synchronized. Paradoxically, the fast, waking-like EEG activity during REM sleep is accompanied by atonia, a loss of muscle tone causing the body to become temporarily paralyzed. The only muscles remaining active are those that enable breathing and control eye movements. Oddly enough, the neurons of our motor cortex The motor of our cortex fire as rapidly during REM sleep as they do during waking movement, a fact that explains why movement like a kitten's twitching paws can coincide with dreams. During the night, periods of SWS and REM sleep alternate in 90-minute cycle with 75 to 80 minutes of SWS followed by 10 to 15 minutes of REM sleep. This cycle repeats, typically with deeper and longer periods of REM sleep towards morning. To study sleep disorders, researchers often use mice that have sleep structures qualitative, qualitatively very similar to humans. However, rodents have shorter and more frequent sleep episodes lasting 3 to 30 minutes, and sometimes longer. Rodents also sleep more during the day and are more active at night. Compare that to human adults, who are typically more active during the day and have one sleep episode at night lasting about 8 hours. And the second part is sleep regulation. How does the brain keep us awake? Wakefulness is maintained by the brain's arousal systems, each regulating different aspects of the awake state. Many arousal systems are in the upper brainstem, where neurons connecting with the forebrain use the neurotransmitters acetylcholine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and glutamate to keep us awake. Orexin-producing neurons, located in the hypothalamus, send projections to the brainstem and spinal cord, the thalamus and basal ganglia, as well as to the forebrain, the amygdala and dopamine-producing neurons. In studies of rats and monkeys, orexin appears to exert excitatory effects on other arousal systems. Orexin increase metabolic rate and their production can be activated by insulin-induced low blood sugar. Thus, they are involved in energy metabolism. Given these functions, it comes as no surprise that orexin-producing neurons are important for preventing a sudden transition to sleep. Their loss causes narcolepsy, as described below. Orexin neurons also connect to hypothalamic neurons containing the neurotransmitters histamine, which plays a role in staying awake. The balance of neurotransmitters in the brain is critically important for maintaining certain brain states. For example, the balance of acetylcholine and norepinephrine can affect whether we are awake or in SWS, and during REM, norepinephrine remains low while acetylcholine is high, activating the thalamus and neocortex enough for dreaming to occur. In this brain state, forebrain excitation without external sensory stimuli produces dreams. The forebrain becomes excited by signals from the REM sleep generator, leading to rapid eye movements and suppression of muscle tone, hallmark signs of REM. And during SWS, the brain systems that keep us awake are actively suppressed. This active suppression of arousal system is caused by the VLPO nucleus, a group of nerve cells in the hypothalamus. Cells in VLPO release the inhibitory neuron transmitters ganglion, gan, galliny, and GABA, which can suppress the arousal system. Damage to the VLPO nucleus can causes irreversible insomnia. And the next part is sleep-awake cycle. Two main factors drive your body to carve sleep: the time of day or night, and it is also called circadian system, and how long you have been awake, homeostatic system. The homeo, homeostatic and circadian systems are separated and act independently. The circadian timing system is regulated by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a small group of nerve cells in the hypothalamus that functions as a master clock. These cells express clock proteins, which go through a biochemical cycle of about 24 hours, setting the pace for daily cycles for activity, sleep, hormone release, and other bodily functions. The master clock neurons also receive input directly from the retina of the eye. Thus, light can reset the master clock, adjusting it to the outside world's day and night cycle. This explains how your sleep cycles can shift when you change time zones during travel. In addition, the suprachiasmatic nucleus sends signals through different brain regions, eventually contacting the VLPO and the orexin neurons in the lateral hypothalamus, which directly regulates arousal. What happens in the brain when we don't get enough sleep? The second system that regulates sleepiness is the homeo- homeostatic system, which makes you feel sleepy when you stay awake longer than usual. An important sleep factor is a chemical in the brain called adenosine. When you stay awake for a long time, adenosine levels in the brain increase. The increased adenosine binds to specific receptors on nerve cells in arousal centers to slow cellular activity and reduce arousal. Adenosine can increase the number of slow waves during SWS. As you get more sleep, adenosine levels fall and slow waves decrease in number. Caffeine acts as a stimulant by binding to adenosine receptors throughout the brain and preventing their interaction with adenosine. As a result, in the presence of caffeine, fewer receptors are available for the slowing influence of adenosine. People often say they need to catch up on sleep, but can you really make up for lost sleep? Normally, the homeostatic and circadian system acts in a complementary fashion to produce a normal 24-hour cycle of sleep and wakefulness. Nonetheless, activating the brain's arousal system can keep us awake even after a long period of wakefulness. For example, a late night study session to prepare for an important exam. In normal circumstances, the homeostatic system will respond to the loss of sleep by increasing the duration of ensuing sleep and increasing the number of slow waves during the SWS episodes. As noted above, this rebound slow wave activity correlates with the previous time spent awake, and it's mediated by adenosine. And the next part is sleep disorders. The most common sleep disorder and the one most popular are familiar with is insomnia. Some people with insomnia have difficulty falling asleep initially. Others fall asleep then awaken part way through the night and can't fall back asleep. Several common disorders listed below disrupt sleep and prevent people from getting an adequate amount of sleep. Daytime sleepiness, characterized by excessive feelings of tiredness during the day, has many causes including sleep apnea. Increased daytime sleepiness can increase the risk of daytime accidents, especially for car accidents. Sleep apnea occurs when the airway muscles of the throat relaxing during sleep to the point of collapse, closing the airway. People with sleep apnea have difficulty breathing and wake up without entering the deeper stages of SWS. This condition can cause high blood pressure and may increase the risk of heart attack. Treatment for sleep apnea focus on reducing airway collapse during sleep. Simple changes that may help include losing weight, avoiding alcohol and sedating drugs prior to sleep, and avoiding sleeping on one's back. However, most people with sleep apnea require breathing machines to keep their airway open. One such device, called a continuous positive airway pressure or CPAP machine, uses a small mask that fits over the nose to provide an airstream and pressure during sleep. In some cases, people need surgery to correct their airway autonomy. REM sleep behavior disorder occurs when nerve pathways in the brain that prevent muscle movement during REM sleep to do work. Remember that dreaming happens during REM sleep, so imagine people literally acting out their dreams by getting up and moving around. This can be very disruptive to a normal night's sleep. The cause of REM behavior disorder is unknown, but it is more common in people with degenerative neural diseases such as Parkinson's, stroke, and types of dementia. The disorder can be treated with drugs for Parkinson's or with a benzodiazepine drug, which enhances the effects of the inhibitory neurotransmitters GABA. And the next session is arousal. Think about what happens in your body and mind when you speak in front of a crowd. Your brain state is very different from when you are asleep. Perhaps you notice changes in your breathing, heart rate, or stomach. Maybe your thoughts are racing or panicked, or maybe you are energized and excited to perform for your audience. These are examples of the complex brain states called arousal. Rather than merely being awake, arousal involves changes in the body and brain that provide motivations to do an action. Teaching a class, speaking in public, or focusing your attention. People experience arousal daily when searching for food while hungry, or when talking with other people. Arousal is also important for reproduction and for avoiding danger. The level of arousal varies across the spectrum from low to high. When arousal falls below a certain threshold, we can transition from wake to sleep. For example, but under heightened arousal like intense anxiety, we cannot reach this threshold and we stay awake. And first is neurotransmitter. During arousal, the brain must devote resources to specific brain regions, much as an emergency call center redirect resources like ambulances and freight trucks during a during a fair. Specific types of neurons in the brain regions involved in arousal release multiple neuron transmitters, telling the rest of the brain and the body to be on alert. These neuron transmitters are dopamine, serotonin, and acetylcholine and histamine, which help the brain communicate with the body to increase arousal. And the second is sensory input. While neurotransmitters provide the internal signals for arousal, external signals from the outside world, like the bright light and cheering crowds at a stage performance, can also stimulate arousal. Sensory input gets sorted in the brain region called the thalamus, often called a sensory clearinghouse. The thalamus regulates arousal, receiving and processing sensory input from brain regions important in senses like vision and hearing, and relaying these inputs to the cortex. And the third is autonomic nerve system. Once the brain is aroused, what does the body do? The reticular activating system in the brainstem coordinates signals coming from sensory inputs and neurotransmitters to make sense and events in the brain, and pass that information to the rest of the body. The reticular activating system specifically controls the autonomic nerve system, which affects heart rate, blood flow, and breathing. By controlling these autonomic body processes, the reticular activating system sets up the physical state of arousal, bringing important resources like oxygen and nutrients to parts of the body where they are needed. Together, the changes that happen in the brain and body during arousal enable us to be alert and focused, which helps us process information quickly. Using this information, one can choose appropriate emotional response or physical actions for a given situation. And the next section is attention. If you are paying attention right now, there should be detectable changes in your heart rate, breathing, and blood flow. If that sounds familiar, it's because those same physiological changes occur during arousal, which is necessary for being alert and paying attention. As mentioned previously, the state of arousal calls for reactions to the environment. To make decisions about you need to focus on what's happening in the environment, especially involving anything relevant to your goals. For example, if your goal is to run away from an angry bear, you need to be alert and pay attention to where you are running so you don't trip and fall. And about the focus, even with multitasking, it is impossible for the brain to process all its sensory inputs. Instead, people focus their attention on one thing at a time. Attention is a fascinating ability because it enables you to have so much control and the ability to fine-tune your focus to different locations, times, and topics. Consider the page you are reading right now. Although you can see the whole page, you focus on only one line at a time. Alternatively, you can turn your attention to the past, just minutes ago when you were reading about arousal, or you can ignore the sentence altogether and focus on the number of times the word you occurs on this page. And scientists recognize two types of attention which involve different brain processes: voluntary attention and involuntary attention. Voluntary attention happens when you choose what to focus on, like finding a loved one in a crowd. The frontal and parietal cortex of the brain are active when you control your attention or direct it towards a specific object or location. Involuntary attention occurs when something in the environment grabs your attention. Involuntary attention is distraction from your chosen goals, and in fact, researchers often use distractor objects in attention experiments. Distractors can be emotional, like pictures of family, or non-emotional images that stand out from other stimuli, like a red circle surrounded by gray squares. Brain regions in the red hemisphere, collectively known as the ventral frontal parietal network, for a system that processes new and interesting stimuli that distract you from the task at hand. Research on attention can help us understand visual tasks, learning, child development, and disorders of attention. And the last session is rest. What is differences between being alert and resting while awake? During times of rest and relaxation, you are usually avoiding heavy thinking or complicated tasks, and parts of the brain called default mode network are more active. You may think of the default mode network as a personal lullaby or a playlist that turns on when you are ready to relax. Activity of the default mode network decreases when you start doing or thinking about a demanding task. Human studies using imaging techniques such as fMRI and PET have identified which brain regions belong to the default mode network. These brain areas, which are involved in emotion, personality, introspection, and memory, include frontal brain regions, as well as the posterior cingulate cortex, lateral parietal cortex, and precuneus. Although the exact role of the default mode network is unclear, the functions of its participating brain regions provide hints about its purpose. Studies on emotion have revealed that activity in the ventromedial PFC is directly related to how anxious a subject feels while performing a task, suggesting that the default mood network may play a role in regulating emotion and mood. Activity in the PFC increases when a person is at rest and daydreaming. The, the dorsal medial PFC is also involved in stream of consciousness thought and thought about oneself in the past, present, or future. The rules of these regions suggest that the default mood network may also function in self-reflection or our sense of self in time. The posterior brain regions of the default mood network become more active when remembering concrete memories from past experience. These brain regions are connected with the hippocampus, which is important for learning and forming memories. Both the hippocampus and the default mood network are more active when a person is at rest in the evening and less active when waking up early in the day. These patterns indicate that the default mood network helps process and remember the events of the day. And future studies using electrical recordings from inside the human brain can be paired with fMRI to tell us more about the brain activity patterns or the default mood network, and how brain regions coordinate their activity during tasks that utilize the functions of this network. And that's all of the chapter 9.